In November last year, a horrific incident occurred in Paju, Gyeonggi Province. The wife of a soldier was found in a state of extreme neglect, shocking the nation. On the morning of November 17, 2025, a report was made to emergency services, stating, "My wife is unconscious." Rescue workers who arrived at the scene detected a strong foul odor and found a woman lying half-slumped on a living room sofa. The condition of the woman's body was beyond imagination. The woman was found leaning against a single-seat sofa. Her lower body was covered in filth, and tens of thousands of maggots were swarming over areas where severe bed sores had caused her flesh to decay and fall away. The paramedic who responded to the scene testified that they could hardly believe their eyes upon seeing the victim's condition.
Her entire body was contaminated with feces, and tens of thousands of maggots were spread across her body. Even when I arrived, the victim was still defecating.
The woman was immediately transported to a hospital, but died the following day from sepsis. Her husband was an active-duty Army non-commissioned officer in his 30s, who also made the emergency call and lived with her. Although he stated in the early stages of the investigation that he was unaware of his wife's condition, experts have assessed the claim as unconvincing. The profiler noted that the situation may indicate psychological and physical abuse rather than simple neglect.
Some observers noted that asserting a lack of awareness when maggots were clearly moving is highly unlikely to be true. The scene photographs show that the victim was half-slumped in a chair, with tissue fully adhered to the backs of her thighs and calves fully adhered. The victim's body was entirely soiled with feces, a condition she could not have brought about by herself. It is a reasonable assessment that she was subjected to abuse while being immobilized in the chair, under circumstances where maggots were visibly moving and decomposition fluids were present. Asserting a lack of awareness amounts to nothing more than an excuse. It cannot be excluded that the husband controlled his dying wife and inflicted sadistic abuse. When examining the scene photographs, it is evident that the victim was half-slumped in a chair, with the tissue on the backs of her thighs and calves fully adhered. The victim's body was entirely soiled with feces, a condition she could not have brought about by herself. I believe it is reasonable to conclude that she was subjected to abuse while being unable to move from the chair, when maggots were visibly moving and decomposition fluids were clearly present. Claiming a lack of awareness is nothing more than an excuse. It cannot be ruled out that the husband controlled his dying wife and subjected her to a form of sadistic abuse.
During the investigation, it was confirmed that the victim had left a letter to her husband while she was still alive. The letter is reported to have contained the victim's emotional state, showing that even in the midst of her suffering, she was trying to appeal to her husband. Experts placed greater weight on the possibility that this case involved sustained control and abuse, not simply neglect. At the initial stage of the case, it was referred on charges of death resulting from gross negligence, but military prosecutors later indicted the husband on charges of murder by omission. The case was later revisited through broadcast programs and expert analysis, sparking nationwide outrage. It is recorded as a shocking example of how a person's safety and dignity can completely collapse not through simple neglect, but through systemic failure.